So upcoming Friday nights, me and the degenerate boys that we are, we're coming back with the betting show.
You look at the way he bounces off tacklers, the way that he keeps his eyes downfield, his vision, his ability to find holes, his pass catching ability, right? Because he had.
In my lifetime, I'd put him at probably around the 2 area, with, again, the only other person up there being King Ricky.
Anthony Richardson or Caleb Williams at the 111.
Yeah.
So just hit us.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of BSing Sports, where we do a little BS and we talk a whole lot of sports. You haven't heard our voices in a while, but we are back from the draft extravaganzas, from traveling, vacations, and taking some time off. We actually saw each other. And when I say we, I mean me, your host, Ryan J. Swift, of course, at BSing_sports. And with me, as always, when it comes to the Dynasty or really basically anything NFL or fantasy football related, my co-host, Mr. Jacob J. Krogan.
Jacob James Krogan at its finest. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. It's nice to be back on air. It's nice to be talking to the people. It's nice to be talking some Dynasty fantasy football here, and it is post-NFL draft talk. So we've been, kind of sparingly hyping it up. We haven't been, the most consistently live, but we have talked about some of the rookies coming in. We have given our takes, and it is time to see how we did and what that landscape looks like. So, Jake, if you don't mind, we're just going to fire away with the first question on our show sheet here. Biggest fantasy riser from the NFL draft. So what this question means is you're sitting there watching the NFL draft, and this player gets picked, and your very first thought was they shoot up my draft boards.
As much as it pains me to say this, it's Jack Besh. Not a lot of people thought he would go day 2, and he went very high day 2 and went to Raiders that need receivers, and he is a good slot receiver. So I think I'm seeing him go. I've seen him go late first, which is insane to me, but I've seen him in the early second. And so to me, that is an insane rise for somebody who
we were talking about his
radars. Huh?
We were talking about him as a sleeper.
Right. Not much sleeping to do.
Yeah, I think that's a really good choice there with that selection. So there were a couple guys that really rose up for me. I don't think there was too many surprises as far as fantasy risers. I will get the obvious out of the way, and I will pick your boy, RJ Harvey, somebody who I was high on again as a sleeper. If you did not see our sleepers episode, you talked about Jack Besh. I talked about RJ Harvey as guys that we were looking to snag potentially in the 3rd round of our rookie drafts. And obviously that's not going to be the case anymore, especially with RJ Harvey getting day 2, 2nd round draft capital. He is the 5th running back off the board in one of the primo landing spots that the Dynasty community wanted to see. And he got no real competition added to him. It's not like they took another running back later in the draft. So RJ Harvey potentially poised to be Sean McVay's guy, or not Sean McVay, excuse me, Sean Payton's guy, where, running backs have been okay for the last 10 to 15 years. Interesting to see what RJ Harvey can do with his receiving upside, his rawness as a running back. Looking forward to that. But yeah, I feel like he was a big, obvious fantasy riser from that draft.
Oh, yeah, no, I definitely love him. Definitely been trying to get him. I think I have him in 2 of my 8 leagues. I'm looking at him right now, and I'm trying to figure out how to get him
in 1.
Huh?
I have him in 1.
I'm trying to figure out how to get him in auto. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Monty has him?
Scholes has him.
Oh, good luck with that. Well, where there's a riser, there's a faller. Who was the first guy you looked at when they got drafted and you were like, damn?
I mean, I feel like the obvious one here is Shedeur Sanders.
Do you have anybody less obvious?
Less obvious? Honestly, Not
I feel
really.
like- I feel like there were a couple of these for me. A couple real standout ones.
That fell.
Yeah.
I mean, I could think of Luther Burden, but did he really fall that far?
Yeah, I don't know that he fell that far, but his landing spot is not that great. I don't know.
I kind of
feel about it.
disagree with that. I kind of feel like he landed in a pretty good spot where he can go play slot, get moved around a lot, and do his thing.
He's also potentially the fourth target on his own offense.
Hey man, we saw what I'm a big believer in Ben Johnson. I think this is probably the most talented offense that he has now, and he has weapons everywhere. So I'm kind of curious to see what he does, but we've seen people in that offense produce week in, week out.
So I've been listening to a lot of other podcasts, and since you brought up Luther Burden, they've talked about how DJ Moore seems to be the odd guy out, and I completely disagree with that take. I don't think anybody really stands out as the obvious odd guy out.
Oh no, not at all.
That being said, what if it was Roma Dunze? What if Ben Johnson took over and immediately went, Roma Dunze's not my type?
I hope they trade him to Denver. That's
And if you think about it, they didn't have a Roma Dunze prototype in Detroit when they were a high-flying offense. They did not have that big-body wide receiver.
Yeah, I guess they didn't. J-Mo isn't that big of a receiver.
J-Mo's going to run down and stretch the field. Amon-Ra is going to be a technician in the middle. You had your Laporta, who I saw a couple comps of Colston Loveland to Sam Laporta.
I mean, we kind of saw it. There was Tim Patrick. He had 3 touchdowns in a game.
Oh, God, Tim Patrick. That's gross.
Hey, man, I'm just saying.
If that's who Roma Dunze turns out to be, dude, I'm going to be so disappointed.
Oh, dude, that's a big fail for him. But,
yeah,
I mean, it is what it is.
So the biggest faller for me, or I guess most disappointing from the NFL draft, is probably a better way to word this question, is Dylan Sampson. Not only did he get day 3 capital, he got day 3 capital to a team that went ahead and gave Quinshon Judkins early day 2 capital.
Yeah.
So while it looks like he is a great handcuff right now, that's not what I was hoping for Dylan Sampson. I felt like he had a better skill set than just being a handcuff. So that's a big disappointment for me. I was really looking forward to snagging Dylan Sampson and doing some big things with a team that needed a running back, but just wasn't in the cards.
Hey, man, like you said, good handcuff. He is one injury away from being fantasy relevant, in my opinion. We both loved the tape that he had. We both loved how he played. And so to me, that's kind of what you want.
The other one for me was Devin Neal. And I don't hate the landing spot so much as the 6th round draft capital is kind of a turnoff.
Yeah, I looked at it, and I was never a Devin Neal lover. He looks slow, and that's what bothers me. But I'm still a Kendre Miller truther. He will stay on my auto league until he is either relevant or not, and that's kind of how I'm going to leave them because I spent a 1st round draft capital 2 years ago on him.
But I think he's at the point where it's not.
Nah, dude, new coaching staff, anything's possible. Kamara's getting old. And like you said, day 3 draft capital. Maybe they know what they have in him.
Maybe we will see. So moving off of the real NFL draft through, I guess we'll say the first week of rookie drafts, we have the current ADP read off here. So I'm going to read off the 1st round. We'll discuss what we've got going on here, and then we'll read the 2nd round and discuss our thoughts and feelings about that as well. So this is Superflex, PPR, tight end premium format where we are getting this ADP data from. It's the best way to play fantasy football, in my opinion.
God bless.
101, we have Ashton Genty. What a shocker. 102, Omarion Hampton. 103, Travis Hunter. 104, Teteroa McMillan, or T-Mac as he wants to be called. 105, Cam Ward. 106, Travion Henderson. 107, Quinshon Judkins. 108, Tyler Warren. 109, Colston Loveland. 110, Caleb Johnson. 111, Emeka Egbuka. And 112, RJ Harvey. Jake, do you have any immediate thoughts about the current ADP in Superflex Set and Premium?
Yes. One, the Colston Loveland being 109 and Tyler Warren being 108. Look, I get it. The talent's there, but the big difference to me is the level of play around him. I love Tyler Warren. Love him to death. Pre-draft, when he played at Penn State, loved watching him play. He's going to a position where I think he cannot succeed right now. No tight end has. It sucks. And I don't think Anthony Richardson or Danny Dimes has the ability to make him fantasy relevant. And meanwhile, we have Loveland here, top 10 draft capital, to an offensive-minded coach who took a tight end that nobody thought was going to do anything, who's being comped to this tight end, and people are still drafting Tyler Warren. So that's what doesn't make sense. And I'm not a Loveland fan. If you've listened to any of these podcasts, that was the dude I do not care about. Now, the NFL cares about him a lot because, like, I heard all the rumors that people were moving up for him. People were trying to do this and that to try and get him early in the first. And the Bears just said, no, we're going to take him 10. So that's where my rankings with this kind of is interesting.
So my initial thought after experiencing 8 rookie drafts now, looking at the ADP data, listening to other people's drafts, is after 101, there is no consensus to anything. There is such a variance here. And that's why I feel like tiers are so important. But for me, the fact that you're getting, based on ADP data, the NFL Draft 101 franchise cornerstone quarterback at the 5th pick in the rookie drafts, to me, that's a little deep. I feel like he should be going before then in Superflex, even though he doesn't have elite rushing upside.
I see at best CJ Stroud here, and we just saw what happened there. I see at best a quarterback that it sneaks into QB1 range, and that is.
So would you have paid 105 for CJ Stroud before the draft?
Probably not, just because me personally, I look for rushing upside in any quarterback that I have on my fantasy football roster.
I do too. It's obviously important.
I'm pretty sure I would bargain and say 60% to 70% of my teams have Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, Bo Nix, Lamar Jackson, like any of those rushers.
Bo Nix is a scrub, dude.
Okay, we're just going to negate what you just said. That's fine. You can have your opinion. Wrong opinion, but it's fine. You're trying to get me riled up. I see what you're doing here. Yeah. It's fine. Not going to happen.
No.
But, he's going to an offense where they did draft a receiver that we might get to talk about in a little bit that we did talk about. He was another one of your sleepers. But that offense doesn't look great. I don't know what Tennessee was doing. But we're going to see. But with no rushing upside, the 105 feels right. And I think in our super flexibles, he just went 107, 108.
I've seen Cam Ward go as low as 109.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody's on the same page.
Which to me that's insane. You're getting the most insulated player in the whole draft at 109. Whether you like his rushing upside or not, he's the number 1 overall pick and a quarterback on a team that desperately needs it in Superflex. He's gonna be around for 5 years.
Man, 5 years, I think so.
And even if he performs as poorly as Bryce Young still goes for first-round picks nowadays.
I don't know. I haven't seen a Bryce Young shares traded in a minute.
Yeah, Bryce Young still goes for first-round picks in today's trading world. That's absolutely insane.
Okay, fair enough.
And I think he's a lesser quarterback than Cam Ward is. That's my opinion. But I feel like – so I want to talk about Travis Hunter here.
Okay.
So the way that I have my tiers is I have 101, and then I have 102 through 104, and then 105 through 109. I have Hunter firmly in the 105 through 109 tier. I know people are really excited about what they heard in the post-draft presser from Liam Cohen. I'll believe it when I see it. Okay? They traded up. They spent this enormous amount of draft capital to go get people are like, they went and got the wide receiver. No, they didn't. They went and got the two-way player in Travis Hunter. So, yes, maybe he starts out primarily on offense. He will play both ways. And the more he plays corner, the less he's going to play wide receiver, because there's no goddamn way he's going to be out there for 90% of the snaps on both sides of the ball.
He said no GD way, people. He does not care.
So, to me, 103 is a huge risk. Not only that, to be taken before Tet McMillan. Look, if you go listen to just about any podcast and they tell you Travis Hunter's their wide receiver 1 over Tet McMillan, you ever hear any of them actually explain why? And the answer is no. I have never heard anybody actually explain what Travis Hunter does better than Tet McMillan to make him their wide receiver 1. Travis Hunter's smaller than Tet McMillan. He's weaker at the catch point. He's weaker off the line than Tet McMillan is.
Ooh, I'd challenge that.
I think he's a bit better of a route runner. I think he has savvier footwork, but I think he also overextends it at times and takes too many damn steps.
That's fine, but at the same time, I would disagree that he does. I think he has the best hands in this draft class.
I didn't say nothing about anybody's hands.
You said that contest.
I said he's weak. I said he's weaker at the catch point and he's weaker off the line because he's 30 pounds lighter than Tet McMillan is. I've seen Travis Hunter get bullied.
And I watched Tet get locked down by a D3 corner. Like, what's your point?
I've also seen Alec Ayomanor, who just got drafted in the 4th round, go for 200 plus against Travis Hunter. We're not talking about one game. We're talking about the whole film.
No.
Travis Hunter's size and the fact that sometimes he takes too many choppy steps in his routes is going to be a problem. Now, do I think he's the second best wide receiver? Maybe. I think he's better than Egbuka, but I only think that he has a higher ceiling than Egbuka. I don't think he's better than Tet.
Wow, we found out you are a Travis Hunter hater. Got it.
So for me, Travis Hunter's firmly 105 through 109, not willing to take a risk higher than that. And I get, taking risks in Dynasty. You got to. That's just the way the game's played. You have to hit home runs sometimes. But to me, this screams of a strikeout.
I don't necessarily think it's a strikeout.
It's a strikeout at the value. At 103, he will be a strikeout. You will hate that pick.
Let's see here. I'm trying to think of what I did, because I didn't have a lot of draft picks in this draft.
I also think that Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren are both a little too high. I think both of them are.
I traded my 3 first-round draft picks away, Terry McLaurin and Khalil Shakir, for Puka Nacua, Chris Olave, and Rashid Rice.
Wait, hold on. Say that again?
I traded away Terry McLaurin.
Okay.
Khalil Shakir.
Yep.
Those 3 firsts.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. I thought you traded away Terry McLaurin and Rashid Rice for Puka Nacua and all that shit you were just talking about.
No.
Did not have the 3 firsts in mind. I was like, huh? Or Chris Olave and however you read that. So read that trade again.
So I received Chris Olave, Puka
Yep.
Nakua, and Rashid Rice
Okay.
for 3 firsts.
3 2025 firsts?
Yeah, 2025 firsts.
Where did the picks end up being?
They were mine.
Give me some numbers.
10 and 8. I don't know. I got to look it up.
Well, then look it up.
I'm trying. I'm moving as fast as my fingers will let me. Team 10 and Team 8.
This was auto, right?
Yeah. But it was mine, so that was the 102 regardless.
Okay, so you traded away the 102, the 104, and the 112. Those were the 3 picks. So 102, 104, 112, Terry McLaurin. For who else?
And Shakir.
And Shakir.
For Puka,
Yep.
Rashid Rice, and Chris Olave.
I don't hate that deal.
I could put the names. I could tell you who got drafted.
Well, I think because it was before anybody got drafted, that's kind of irrelevant.
Oh, yeah. But I'm just saying I could put the names to those picks, too.
But yeah, I think that's a pretty solid deal all the way around. I feel like you've got more known commodities, which is never a bad thing.
That's kind of how I live my fantasy football life these days. Is I don't really care for the picks, and then I can always trade for players that I like I did this year.
Yeah, so I think Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland are a tad high, even in tight end premium. I like Emeka Egbuka much better than the 111. And I think I would be okay with swapping Cam Ward and Travis Hunter. Those were kind of my final thoughts about the first round. But reality, like I said, there's just no consensus on the first round or any of the rounds. It feels like anything after 101 just kind of seems like it's up in the air.
Fair enough. Yeah. I love where RJ Harvey's value is at.
112, it's a good. I got him at 203 in the one draft I got him in. And then I had another chance to take him at 201. I decided to pass.
Yep. I remember I was trying to trade for it.
Yeah, if I was leaning Harvey. Now, we'll get into the second round a little bit here now and why and what my strategy was and everything. So second round ADP. At 201, we have Matthew Golden. 202, Jackson Dart. 203, Luther Burden. 204, Cam Scattaboo. Real quick before I continue on, I listened to a pod the other day. Somebody called him Cam Scatibo.
Scatibo.
Gonna need that to be fixed.
Oh.
205, Trey Harris. 206, Jaden Higgins. 207, Jack Besh. 208, Mason Taylor. 209, Jalen Milrow. 210, Bashal Tootin. 211, Shadur Sanders, still going in the second round. And 212, Tyler Shuck. So, what are your initial thoughts about the second round ADP?
I want Tyler Shuck just so I can have a great fantasy football team name. But other than that,
we'll talk about those off air.
Yeah, right.
A lot of those are not podcast appropriate.
But, right. What I noticed here, which I think is not insane, but at the same time I love because it's just kind of giving me flashbacks here, is Jackson Dart to 202. Has a lot of Bo Nix feel here. Everybody says he shouldn't be a first-round quarterback, has the rushing upside, and like everybody was like, oh, he was in this system that just did this. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to read. He just threw. And look, you put him in the right system with good players, and he is going to perform because he is a baller. That's what he's just a football player. That's what he does. You give him a top 5 receiver in the NFL in Malik Neighbors, Tyrone Tracy, and Cam Scadaboo here, who performed well last year when they had no offense around them. And then the Giants upgraded their defense. I think Jackson Dart here at the 202, we will look back just like we did at Bo Nix last year and be like, that was the steal of the draft.
I like that comparison a lot. I do. My only, I guess, defense against it was that last year's draft class was, even on the face value, more talented than this one. Nonetheless, I think your point still stands, and I think that's a great comparison. The fact that there is a first-round drafted quarterback with the rushing upside that Jackson Dart has going in the second round, to me, is a little crazy. Especially in Superflex. I think people don't realize the rushing upside Jackson Dart actually has. Probably also turned off by the fact that he's not going to start year one. That's already been said out loud. However, I feel like that's probably the best case for him. If you remember the pre-draft shows, I was a little concerned about Jackson Dart because I heard all these rumors he was going to go top 10. And I felt like that would have catapulted his expectations. Him in the late first round, I can deal with that. Him being drafted at ADP 202 in rookie drafts, I'm good with that.
Oh, yeah. I'm here for that as well.
Yeah. The other...
I need to go try and get a Jackson Dart share.
One of the players that I'm a little on is Cam Scadaboo at 204.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a little early given some of the other names that's coming off of here, but at the same time, I don't really hate it so much because he did ball out for Arizona State, and Tyrone Tracy is his only competition, and Tyrone Tracy literally just gives the ball away. He's like Ramondre Stevenson, just can't hold on to the football. But
don't need. I told you. I already told you, man. I talked to him. He's done nothing but carry a football around all offseason. He's not going to fumble the ball, okay?
Well, Travion Henderson is going to tell him to carry that football right to the bench.
We will see.
I hope.
We'll see.
But, yeah, I think Scadaboo there, I have him a little bit later in the second in my tiers. I don't like him at 204. I think the one draft I have him in, I got him at 207 or 208, which is more where I'm more okay taking him. But we'll see how he's utilized. We'll just see how that whole Giants offense just kind of plays out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. That is for sure. I saw a lot of Jaden Higgins hate in
I
the
did too.
X atmosphere, and I don't understand why. They're saying he's this year's Keon Coleman. They're saying just he's not going to produce at all. And I'm just trying to figure out, Stephon Diggs is gone. Tank Dell's dead.
Yeah.
Like,
Christian Kirk has nothing invested in him at all, and not that they would play the same position anyway.
not at all. You needed somebody to play the opposite side, and all anybody ever talked about was how good and a sleeper pick he was going to be. And now that he's not even going to have to go up against the number one corner, Nico's going to draw all the coverage. He has Christian Kirk that is going to take over the middle. He just gets to go play ball. And people are just like, nah.
Yeah, like the main argument that I've heard against Jaden Higgins is that he has a bad landing spot. And then I've heard the same exact people say they would draft Jalen Noel over him. Like, buddy, the Houston Texans didn't even draft Jalen Noel over Jaden Higgins. Why would I do that?
Yeah, no. What was he, the 34th pick?
Yeah, early.
Like, he was almost a first rounder.
That top 50 draft capital you look for in wide receivers, he hit that threshold. He hit that threshold. Meanwhile, we got a day 3 running back sharing touches with Tyrone Tracy and what's going to be one of the worst offenses in the NFL getting drafted before him.
Yep.
Nico Collins has help. Jaden Higgins, like you hit the nail right on the head. Jaden Higgins gets to go out there and just ball out on the other side of the field. I don't get
play
the
football.
I don't get the Jaden Higgins hate either at all.
Not one bit. And then I absolutely love Trey Harris. Hate that I'm gonna have to hate on him, but I love where he went. I see big things coming from that man, and as a Justin Herbert shareholder in a lot of leagues, it made me happy seeing him go there. But as the Denver Bronco fan I am, I hope he stubs his toe.
Yeah, I'm okay with Trey Harris 205. I got nothing against that. I was a little afraid that his ADP was going to be a little bit higher, but it's not. So I'm okay with Trey Harris 205.
It's crazy. We had a lot of people on our sleepers that are now like second round draft picks or first round draft picks.
The last person I want to talk about, and you talked about him making a joke, I want to talk about him seriously, is Tyler Shuck. Like, the Saints invested, it's not top 10, it's not even first round. They saw Spencer Rattler play last year and go, absolutely not. Derek Carr, there's potential to miss time this season with a shoulder injury. Like, we're potentially looking at a day one starting quarterback who has plenty of starts in his college career. Granted, he couldn't stay healthy, but he's got, he's seasoned. He has a lot of the skills you'd look for. He's at least got some kind of investment from the team. And if he somehow hits, 212 is going to be an absolute steal. But if he doesn't hit, who cares, right? It's 212.
Yeah, no.
To me, for a quarterback in Superflex, I would probably start thinking about taking him middle of the second round. I think 212 is too late. Because, mind you, this is ADP, so that means that there's probably a lot of drafts out there who are taking him in the third round. And it's that's crazy. I think the fact that he's after Jalen Milroe in ADP is a little insane. The fact that he's after Shadur Sanders in ADP is absolutely crazy.
Hey, man, I'm not going to disagree with you here. I 100% am on board. But at the same time, did we have this talk in person? I can't remember. That, I don't think Spencer Rattler has the brain power that Kellen Moore wants his quarterback to have. And that is what Tyler here has.
Yeah.
He's been around, knows that if he can stay healthy, I think he can run that offense efficiently.
Yeah. And he's got pieces there. Kamara, Olave, Shaheed.
Don't forget Taysom Hill, dude.
Yeah, there's at least, training wheels on the bike there. But I think that's too low for a quarterback who got drafted pretty early in the second round to a QB needy team. I think that's a little too low for me.
No, I get it.
Yeah, so moving on from current ADP.
Moving on up.
So you saw the NFL draft. Again, you didn't have a ton of picks, but that makes for stark contrasts of strategy between me and you, because there were certain leagues where I had a ton of picks. What was your strategy coming in? Was it to stay out of the draft? Was it to get back in? Was it to trade the few picks you had? What was your strategy?
My strategy was to try and get into the second round. Like we've talked about it, there is some potential here to get studs in the second round. This wasn't a deep class, so if you didn't have a high first round draft pick, and you get one of those blue chip players that you're not worried about, you're gambling on everything else. And so I traded in, got RJ Harvey in a few leagues, but I tried to get into the second round so I could pick up people like a Mason Taylor, who was a second round draft pick, going to the Jets. He doesn't really have any competition. That's kind of how I looked at this draft. Is you kind of try and find your Puka Nakuas, your diamonds in the rough, trying to get these things done. So,
yeah, I don't necessarily hate that. Getting back into the second round, particularly when you're looking at the ADP and you see guys like Jaden Higgins at 206, who we just raved about, or Tyler Shuck at 212. I'm okay with that. My strategy going into the drafts, and I feel like I've done this pretty well, was to get at least one share of as many people as I could. Because to your point, there wasn't a lot of top-end talent. and ultimately somebody or a couple people are going to come out of this draft, like a couple players are going to come out of this draft and exceed expectations. And I wanted at least a wide enough diversity to have shares of those players, whether they were across multiple leagues or whatever the case may be. So in the 5 leagues that I commission, I have $17 draft picks, and I took a different person with every single one. It was just the strategy for me was to get as the widest diversity of shares possible. I intentionally didn't draft certain people twice. RJ Harvey at 201 in auto. I went Jackson Dart instead.
I think he's pretty smart.
Yeah, so I wanted to get as many nails hit on the head as I could, and I think that gives me the best chance to be successful. From a whole dynasty landscape. Am I going to be successful league to league doing that? Probably not. I don't feel like I reached anybody necessarily based on my rankings, like certain people did, and we do have a question that'll answer that later. But yeah, so how did that draft strategy come? How many second-round picks did you end up getting?
Not many, dude. I think I only had like 5 or 6.
I think that's like 5 or 6 more than you had.
Probably.
Yeah, you were out on this class early, and I'll give you credit. Like, you really didn't make like a huge push to come back in, except for RJ Harvey.
Yeah, that's kind of all I wanted was RJ Harvey. That was it.
So are you satisfied with your drafts overall, collectively?
Yeah. I got some RJ Harvey shares. I got some Mason Taylor shares. Just some guys that like I'm happy with, and so
yeah. Like I said, I like my drafts overall. There's a couple players that I've missed out on to this point. I still have 2 more rookie drafts. I've missed out on all 3 of the big Ohio State guys who I was anticipating to get in a couple of drafts going into it, but because the way the drafts fell, I did not. So those are probably the only 3 players that I'm kind of upset I haven't gotten a share of yet.
I did get a Judkins share, so I get to root that bad boy on.
Yeah. What's the best value pick and the worst value pick you've seen to this point?
I think the best value pick is what we've kind of talked on, which was Cam Ward at the 108 or 9 in super flexibles. And the worst pick I saw was Jack Besh going 110.
Yeah, I had no chance. The first one. Yeah, I saw that too. The worst pick that I've seen is Trey Harris going 109. Like, I know you like Trey Harris a little bit more than I do. So would you take Trey Harris over Jaden Higgins, Luther Burden, Tyler Warren, RJ Harvey, Matthew Golden, or Colson Loveland?
Maybe over Matthew Golden you can make an argument, but no.
Yeah, then Jackson Dart, Caleb Johnson went behind him. Like that, I feel like that's a reach. Yeah, it was the same person in DT, went back-to-back, 109, 110, Trey Harris, Jaden Higgins. Which, as much as we just raved about Jaden Higgins at 110 I don't like either.
No, not at all. Jaden Higgins needs to be a second rounder. Just
yeah.
The talent for other players is just better. And I say that, I'll probably eat my words, but that's fine.
Yeah. Again, I don't love the consensus hate on Jaden Higgins. So last question before I turn to you if you have anything. 3 seconds. Who's your guy?
I mean, RJ Harvey.
Yeah.
Not hard. I love what he brings to the table. Did deep dive into him after the Broncos drafted him, of course, and he literally is just an inch shorter and about 7 pounds lighter than Ashton Genty, but he puts up identical efficiency numbers, if not better, in some areas. And
how concerned are you about his age?
Not at all. People think when you bring a running back's age into it, it is because you're worried about the wear and tear. And he came in as a quarterback. And so, converted to a running back, and so the wear and tear is not there. And so I'm not worried about his age. And even so, I think in 3-year windows. So
took the words right out of my mouth, JJ. I completely agree with that. My guy is Tyler Shuck. It's not the sexiest my guy, but at 212, I mean,
shuck him, dude.
Yeah, shuck him. Oh man.
Oh man.
Good to be back.
Always.
Yeah. So that being said, Jake, do you have anything for the listeners out there before we sign off for the day?
Oh yeah, German people can be very funny. So speaking of shucking, Biloxi's minor league team here, about an hour away from me, are the Shuckers.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were just like joking around in Miami this weekend, just shuck off and like those things. And like you replace the word, like it's just a general thing Americans do. You replace the bad word with that. And instead of him replacing it, he said, shuck the fuck off or shuck the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
And like you just said the cuss word. And I was just like, what? He replaced shut with shuck. And I was like, no, that's not how we do it here, buddy.
No, you're supposed to say shuck up.
Exactly. But like, oh, dude, he said that I was crying tears. But, just a good little story there.
Oh, that's great.
Germans can be funny. The English
Americans do have a unique culture. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. But
yeah. So thank you for that little story. That was pretty funny.
Thank you. I would give a good story to the loyal fans here.
And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of BSing Sports, where we do a little BS and we talk a whole lot of sports. Have a good night, guys.